So what are we going to talk about today, guys? Well, today we're going to be talking about the NBA season. We previously covered the opening games being the Lakers versus the Timberwolves and the Knicks versus Boston Celtics. And listen, it was amazing to have the NBA season back up and running. We're now in a position where we're able to cover a couple more games and a couple more teams who have been performing well and a couple of teams who haven't been performing well. But first off, let's take a look at the standings. There are going to be some surprise results and some teams that we're going to be covering in a little bit of depth. Obviously, it's early in the season. We're not even 5% through the season yet. But there's some things that we can definitely see and early signs may be promising for some of these teams. So looking at the Eastern Conference, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers who sit atop with the Boston Celtics. One of those teams is a surprise, the other less so, but two teams who have been near the top of the Eastern Conference for the last couple of years, followed by the Magic and the Heat. And then you have the Bulls and Hawks, followed by the Wizards and Knicks and 76ers, who are all in that pack. And at the bottom, you have the Detroit Pistons, Indiana Pacers, who I should have actually covered in this as well. But they're not one of the teams I actually pulled out. But I think now looking at it, they should have been one. Western Conference, Oklahoma City Thunder sitting at the top as the only undefeated team in the Western Conference. The Lakers just behind with the Dallas Mavericks, Suns, Golden State, and then the Clippers and the Houston Rockets just below them with the T-Wolves and the Grizzlies. And at the bottom you have the Utah Jazz, who have failed to win a game as of yet. Them and Detroit, I believe, are the only two teams. And alongside them are the Trailblazers and the Spurs also. So a lot going on, some surprises, some less so. But where are we going to kick off? We're going to kick off with the team who sit atop of the Eastern Conference, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, in my opinion, have a very, very strong roster. Pieces that you may think, should they go together? For example, you've got the likes of Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Two shorter, smaller guards. Two guards you may think may have an issue in terms of how they share the ball, how they move the ball, etc. Yet they find a way to get it done. Same thing for a Evan Mobley and a Jarrett Allen. Mobley more of the 4, Allen more of the 5, obviously, but still finding a way to work together. And I think probably where they've had a deficiency over the last couple of years has been in that forward position, because they've got two solid cards, two solid big men, but where are they getting enough, support on those wings in terms of perimeter defense and also 3-point shooting? Yes, they've got a Max Strus, but I think they're going to need a little bit more. Caris LeVert as well is someone who comes in very, very clutch for them. So looking at the team and looking at the stats, which I've brought up here, I just wanted to break down individual performance before we go into the team performance as well, because there's some really, really impressive stats. But from a team perspective, in terms of who's dominating from a scoring perspective, no surprise, Donovan Mitchell is at the top, supported by Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, who both are putting up 19 and 18 points essentially, respectively, shooting at a good percentage. When you look at it, they're top 4 or 5 at the moment, very early in the season. But Donovan Mitchell, with his high volume of shooting, taking nearly 18 shots a game, is hitting 50%. Darius Garland's hitting 55%. Evan Mobley, who's able to hit 50% of his threes, even though he's only taking 2 a game, is also shooting at a good clip as well. But looking at Jarrett Allen, hitting 80% of his shots, 81% essentially of his shots in close, gives them a great opportunity to win games, to be honest with you. If him and Mobley are hitting their shots, it puts Darius Garland and Mitchell in a position for them to do the same and put Cleveland in a great position. But these numbers are really, really impressive. In terms of who's taking the most amount of shots, no change there. The top 4 is well established, even though I'll say the top 5 is well established, with Caris LeVert as pretty much the bona fide, I would say, small forward for the team. I think they need more, and that's just my opinion. They need more from the wing. They need more from that bench if they want to make a leap and a climb up that table. In terms of 3-point percentage, Caris LeVert hitting 62%, but only shooting at a small percentage. Darius Garland hitting 50% of his threes, and he's firing around 7 a game, which is, that's what we need to see. The volume matched with the accuracy. And Donovan Mitchell firing 8 and hitting 3, decent percentage so far. We wouldn't want to see that drop much more. Looking at the team stats, and 2 things I wanted to call out. Obviously, they're one of only 2 teams which are undefeated, Boston and Cavaliers. two key points I wanted to mention here. So one, they are the second best offensive team in terms of offensive rating, which is very, very impressive from a Cleveland Cavaliers standpoint. Also, not only are do they have the second best offensive rating, they also have the best effective field goal percentage. They also have the best true shooting percentage of any team. And so I don't know how long this is going to last for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but long may it continue. I have a composition of a team that should go pretty far. You know, a prototypical center, prototypical power forward. Yes, their backcourt may be not ideal in terms of size, but in terms of quality and skill, they don't lack anything. And so the Cleveland Cavaliers are the first team we're covering. Very impressed with them. We'll see how they proceed. I would say that I'm really impressed. You know, I'll give them an A-star at this present time. However, get more wing support in terms of shooting and perimeter defense, 3-and-D, and fill out that bench with some people who can take over in the absence of a Garland or Donovan Mitchell. Moving on to our second team, it is the Oklahoma City Thunder. No surprise, one of my favorite teams in the league. How could you not be impressed with them? Likes of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who came in after his trade from the LA Clippers, established himself last season, and even in the previous seasons, he's climbed each year. You know, All-Star, All-NBA, now in the MVP conversation. And not only him, surrounded by quality players, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and now in the offseason, you know, they went forward and copped a couple more pieces in the likes of Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein, who hasn't yet featured. But when he does, he's going to add even more quality to a team that, I mean, the boys aren't playing this season. They are not playing this season. We're going to take a quick look at some of the numbers. No surprise with Shai leading the scoring for his team. 29 points so far, shooting at around 45% field goal percentage and 30% from free. That 3% number needs to go up. And as a team, they haven't been hitting at the best percentage so far. Especially when Shai's hitting around 8 a game, that percentage is definitely going to need to increase. But followed behind him, Chet Holmgren, who is shooting even worse 3-point percentage, surprisingly. But he is doing exactly what he needs to do. Really, really impressed by Chet, not only in his ability to get numbers on the board, but defensively his impact cannot be minimized. He's doing exceptional work, and he's the anchor for the defense for this team. Not only is he doing the work, but Alex Caruso as well is putting in great work, followed by obviously Jalen Williams in terms of the scoring. He's actually taking more shots from Chet, but scoring less. That probably would be down to his ability to get to the free throw line as effectively as someone like Chet, who gets there around 7 times a game. But Jalen's going to continue to impress and do what he's continuously done each and every year, continue to grow. I think for him, hitting 20 points per game this season would be an amazing feat. But not only that, continuing to extend himself as a playmaker will be really, really key. In terms of field goal percentage, Aaron Wiggins is surprisingly hitting at such a high percentage, and he's not shooting like really minute numbers. I mean 7 shots a game, hitting 70% so far. Very impressive, nearly 20 minutes a game. Chet hitting 56%. Dort also is currently the team's best 3-point scorer as well. But again, the key thing that stands out to me about the Oklahoma City Thunder is that defensive rating. So 90.8 is absolutely amazing. Clearly and far away the best defensive team. Could it be down to the 2 All-NBA defenders? Could it be down to the defensive team contributors that they've got in Chet and Alex Caruso? I think yes. And it's key for me to see how they continue to progress. I think for me, the key thing for a Thunder perspective is how are you going to use those trade assets that you have, whether the players that you've drafted recently or those picks that you have waiting in the wings. Because for me, in the summer, I know it would have been a risk and maybe hamstrung them in the future, but I would have gotten a Lauri Markkanen. They had the cap space, they had the assets to do so. Understood why they didn't do it, but I'm now looking at how can you take that next step. You can't Yes, they're young and the window is presumably quite big. However, that's not the case always. Let's be realistic. That windows can shut and close. Players can become frustrated. Injuries can happen. There's no guarantee. So, in my opinion, if I was them, would be taking this young team and propelling them as quickly as possible to that trophy. The Celtic teams, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, can tell you how long they had to wait. I think for the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're further along on their journey. They didn't have to wait and draft Shea directly out of college. He came via a trade. Jalen Williams has a couple of years now. Chet also, slightly different circumstance, but the same applies. Maximize your window when you can, while you can. And that's what they will need to do. The next team we're going to be covering, again, no surprise, is the Boston Celtics, the best team in the NBA, clearly last season, defined by the fact that they won the trophy. Well deserved. They've been on a grind for many years and they finally got it. I think the best constructed roster in the NBA, if I'm being honest with you. And it's hard. There are a lot of good rosters, but this one, it just screams perfection. It screams perfection. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, 2 all-star, all-caliber, all-NBA wings, can defend, can attack, can play make, can do it all. You're covered there. You then match that with a Derek White, for example. Offensive mastermind, can also contribute offensively, can also play make. You're covered there from a guard perspective. He's essentially can do it all. He can score, he can provide, he can assist, he can defend. You're covered there. You've got someone who does exactly the same in Drew Holiday. Can defend, can attack, can play make, can lead your offense on one night, can be your best defender on another night. You're covered there. You've got 2 of a kind. Peyton Pritchard, he's that little spark off the bench, continues to impress and is impressing this season. Sam Hauser, 3-point specialist. Al Horford, big man who can do a little bit of everything. We haven't even spoken about Porzingis, who's been injured and will be the period of this season. It's crazy when you think about the amount of quality. Xavier Tillman, who was a big prominent part of the Grizzlies rotation, and at Boston, with Boston, he's a bit of a bit part piece, but continues to. Even Xavier Tillman, who has come in and is contributing and adding more support where Boston Celtics need it most, and that's down low because without Porzingis, with Al Horford getting older, they need someone who's going to be able to marshal those minutes and at least try to defend those bigger players. In terms of performances, Jason Tatum has been on fire. Came back from the Olympics, came back from last season where many were doubting him or saying he didn't deserve the Finals MVP. He didn't, and there was complaints about him starting in the Olympics. I think that's a non-factor, to be honest with you. His time will come. He's come here firing on all cylinders, hitting 50% of his shots, 40 from 3. He just needs to get his free throw numbers up, and he will be in line for an absolutely amazing season. If he can reproduce these numbers for the rest of the season, that MVP shouts that he was getting last season could actually be sustained. Jaylen Brown, again, does his job. One of the best defenders in the NBA. Nothing else to say about that. He's continuing to fire away. I will say the amounts of shots him and Tatum are allowed to take are very, very nice. Over 20 for both. They're allowed to do their things, closely followed by the guards who would then take over. The big men, as of yet, without Porzingis, don't really need to be fed as much. They'll work within the confines of the offense, and their time will come. Believe me, their time will come in the playoffs. Those big men control so much about how the Celtics perform. They will need Al Horford and Porzingis fit then, not necessarily now. And they probably won't show you their full arsenal until they've got everybody back. There's some plays that Joe Mazzulla, who's doing an incredible job, will not tell you about. The Boston Celtics have been very, very impressive. I love the way that they play. Yes, they shoot a lot of threes. They hit a lot of threes. They live and die by the numbers, and you can't hate on it, really. They do what they need to do, and they do it very, very well. Now we're going to be moving on to more of a surprise team. We expected what we said from the Celtics. We are not expecting, or we were not expecting what we are seeing from the Los Angeles Lakers. A team who were in flux, a team who have been in the playoffs in the last 2 seasons, a team where I was a bit shocked in terms of what direction are you actually going in, because the quality was there. You've got 2 top quality players, Anthony Davis, LeBron. You should not be in the play-in. Play-in should not be where you are. but yet they continuously found themselves there. And it was easy to blame Darvin Ham or the coaching. You could have said it was the players, you know, how they applied themselves, etc. It's looking like with JJ coming in that it may have been the coaching. I've watched JJ's podcast. I watched him as a player, obviously, and the way he talks about and the way he talks about basketball is, you can tell he's in love with it. He thinks about it. Same way with Joe Mazzulla. Obviously different in terms of how they, you know, went through their coaching ranks. But these are two people, and as JJ says best, psychos. They're crazy about this game. They love the game. They're first about the game. They're probably dreaming of plays as they're asleep. They love it, and it comes through in his way his players are playing. Anthony Davis has been absolutely amazing, averaging 32 points a game. He is the hub for the Lakers now. Everything actually runs through him, and that's not saying he's primary ball handler or every time he comes down he must, you know, take a shot. No, but he's involved in actions. He's having handoffs. He's more content when his shot comes. He's not rushing it as much, and it's beautiful to see. He's hitting his shots at a great percentage. That 3-pointer percentage is poor, but you know, that's not his bread and butter. There was a couple of years where he was hitting his 3-pointers at a very good clip. LeBron is still doing his thing, averaging 20 points so far, hitting at a decent percentage as well. Would like to see that number come up a little bit more. From a 3-point standpoint, doing really, really well. Austin Reeves has been amazing as well. A lot more trust and faith in terms of how he leads the offense. You can see with his numbers in terms of the assist, he essentially is, with D'Angelo Russell, the second playmaker for the Lakers. I would say from a D'Angelo standpoint, the fact that Austin Reeves is averaging nearly 20 points, you're averaging 11. The splits across field goal percentage. Austin Reeves is kind of doing D'Lo's job. I mean, he's kind of doing his job and D'Lo's job at the same time. No offense to D'Lo. I mean, I expect a lot more. I expect him to be hitting 40 to plus percentage of his threes, because he was doing that for a period of last season. If he's not doing that, if he's not running the offense to the level that you may expect, I mean, 6 assists isn't bad, but I'd expect a lot more in terms of his points per game. Even when you watch the game, I don't think he's really leading the offense. He just has his spurts and his times. I think Austin Reeves does a much better job than that. If I was the Lakers and knowing that his contract is running out next season, I'd be looking to potentially move D'Lo. Maybe move D'Lo and Gabe Vincent and see what potentially we could get. Those are a large bulk of minutes, yes. But in terms of output and production from a scoring standpoint, they're things to be looked at. Again, there's no rush in doing that, but I would look at optimizing that guard position if possible. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the Orlando Magic, a team who we were very, very high on. Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, to name two forwards who are of an ilk that I think could really carry the Magic through the Eastern Conference very, very well. We'll take a look at how the team are performing. Again, I've spoken about the top two men. Paolo, who had a 50-point game. For me, he's one. I know he's got a couple of deficiencies, but they're slowly disappearing. They are slowly disappearing. I mean, yeah, I love the guy, to be honest with you. I think he's the prototypical point forward. I think he's a prototypical point forward, and I mean that by how he's leading the offense so far. 6 assists, as you can see, 9.3 rebounds. He's taking the ball, he's driving with it, he's setting his teammates up. Not only that, he's shooting at a really good percentage, nearly 50%, 40% from free. Gets to the line efficiently. Defensively, he's not a liability. He's got the size, he's got the IQ. And listen, I mean, the Magic are in safe hands. And when you look at the man next to him, Franz Wagner, again, it continues to be of the same vein. Might be a slightly better shooter, but may be kind of less skilled in some of the other areas, such as playmaking. But he does his job. He's very, very efficient in terms of his skill set. He's still quite young as well. They both are, and a lot is available to them in the future, but they've got somebody in the guard position who they can rely upon. And there were some questions when he was settling into the NBA of if he could be relied upon, but he definitely can. Jalen Suggs has that dog in him. He has that dog in him. He's a dog. He will work hard. All offensive team, I believe last year, second team, I think it was, he worked so hard. I've seen a couple of clips this season where he will hound the other team. He will literally hound them. It may have been against Miami potentially, but he was on it, and he's not only getting points, he's setting up his team as well. He plays slightly less of the traditional point guard role. He did get a massive contract in the off season. I think he definitely has the play to, contribute. Is he ever going to contribute in lane? Is he ever going to contribute in line with his contract? That's yet to be seen. But he's someone who can sit next to Wagner and Paolo and be that piece. I think the issue that they're going to have going forward is how do we support and get the big men that we want. Wagner and Carter have been two players who have, been in that rotation for the last couple of years. Of course, they're pretty good, but I feel like they're going to need I feel like a star center would be ideal for them. They can also really improve the guard positions as well. Yes, you've got Suggs. Outside of that, it's looking a tiny bit sketchy. Yes, KPC is there. Is he going to give you the output that you need? Probably not. Defensively, he should be good. Cole Anthony, again, we'll see how he will perform, but a lot will be needed from him if the Magic are to get to where they want to get to. And I think for them, a top 4 team in the East is should be the expectations, to be honest with you. They've got the quality and they've got the ability to do so. Guys, those are the top 5 teams that I've been most impressed with. Make sure to leave your opinions. I'd love to hear who you've been impressed with this season. Make sure to like, subscribe and comment, and I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.